Joining me now is author and political commentator Shamika Michelle.
When God looked at man, he said it's not good for man to be alone. He gave him a woman. He didn't give him a village. He didn't give him the community. He said, be fruitful and multiply to this man and this woman. So it's supposed to be God, husband, wife.
If you always do what you've always done, you will always get what you've always done.
Raise your hand if you're married. None of you are married. Raise your hand if you would like to be married to your baby's father. One. The rest of you who don't plan to get married, why don't you plan to get married? I'd like to know that.
You already have your child to think about, and then a whole family to care for. You know, it's a lot of responsibility, and then you don't want the commitments.
I wouldn't want no man holding me down because I think I can make it as a single parent.
But don't you think you might need help in raising that baby from a man?
Not really. I didn't have a father. My father wasn't in the home, so you know it really, male figures are not substantially important in the family.
Hello, and happy Friday. You know what we're discussing today? This is part 2. Last Friday, we talked about, hey, everybody. Hey, Yoni. Hey, I'm going to say Melina because I'm not quite sure how to pronounce your first name. But thank you for being here, Fearless Family. Hi, Sean. Last week, we talked about the effects of feminism and what they've done to women. I played that video again from last week, which is a video from 1986, I believe, the vanishing of the Black family. We played that last week and we discussed it, and we talked about the idea that women feel like they don't need a man. We discussed the waves of feminism, and we talked about how up until around the 1960s, Black people were more likely to be married than whites. We talked about the marriage rates. Currently, Black people are about 31% married in comparison to Hispanics, 43%, white, 53%, and Asians, 59%. And Black people have a higher divorce rate. We also discussed last week that about 67% of Black kids are born to single parent households. And y'all know that I hate really discussing Black, white. I think feminism has had an effect on everybody across the board, but it is clear that it has affected Black people to a greater degree. Now, I want to say in this broadcast, I want to try and be as considerate as possible. And I want to be clear that I am not at all trying to, as a woman, tell men how to be men. I don't even think that's possible, which is why I think this show is so important, because you're going to clearly see by the end of this show the effects of feminism and women trying to raise men. I think that it's supposed to be 2 parents. I am a very firm believer that only a man can raise another man. I always go back to the Bible when it talks about Abraham begat Isaac, Isaac begot Jacob, so forth and so on. Even though it was Abraham and Sarah, we know that Sarah was Isaac's mom. You don't see them go through the timeline of the women involved. It's always the men, and I think that that is not by mistake. It is because men begot or beget other men. And when men are absent, there is a huge effect on the children. However, statistics show that when a single woman is raising a boy, there is a greater effect on that boy or that male child than there is female children. So we're going to get into that today. Again, I want to be clear that I am not trying to tell men how to be men. I am, however, as someone who has studied psychology, someone who is a certified life coach, and someone who has just lived long enough to experience life and to be able to look around and see with my very own eyes, just coming to have an honest conversation. Because I believe, as I was saying last week, we have to identify the problems and understand that feminism is the culprit. Feminism is why we are here, because we have embraced the ideologies of feminism hook, line, and sinker. And I believe that if we come together, men and women, and say, we're going to start tearing down the walls that feminism built, maybe, just maybe, we can turn this around. Because if you look around, number one, 67% of kids being raised by a single mother is terrible. But when you look around and you see what it has done to society, everybody should be on board in trying to fix it. We see the problem. And I want us to all hopefully be understanding that even if I have to point out some things that men don't like or women don't like, it is all for the goal of trying to find solutions so that we can make a turn, take a turn, make a change. Because as you saw by the thumbnail, there's a rise in men who don't want to be men. There's a rise in men who have no idea what to do with all of the masculinity they feel. And it's popping up all across the country. You have they're either soft or savage because of feminism, because they are being raised in households with women only. And let me be clear, this is not to paint men as deadbeat dads, because there are a lot of men who don't live in the house with the female, but they still are active fathers. I think when we say they aren't in the house, a lot of times men go on the defense and say, oh, well, I'm around my child. I take care of my child. I pay child support, or I pick the child up and take him to basketball practice or whatever. And they are clear, don't paint me as a deadbeat dad. But what I want to do today is show that these kids are more likely to have issues when dad is not in the home. So I'm not talking about, I'm not trying to say that just because he's not in the home, he's not a father. We hear all the time, oh, that's been debunked. It's not a deadbeat dad issue. It is a dad not being in the home issue. And we're going to get to that. Right now, we want to talk about the problem. Then we're going to get to why the problem exists, which I believe is feminism. And then we're going to talk about the solutions. And I'm going to try to do this as mindful as possible, as I said, with the understanding that women can't raise men to be men. I believe it is better for a man to raise a man. Now, this is not to say that it can't be done. We're not talking about the exceptions, because it can be done. I know a lot of men who are good men, who are not soft or savage, that were raised by single women. Hand clap to you. We're not talking about the exceptions today, though. We're talking about the statistics and the reality that studies show men raised with women only are at a greater risk for lower academic achievement and behavior issues. That's what we're going to talk about today. That men or males raised with women only are at a greater risk for lower academic achievement and behavior issues. We're not talking about the exceptions. If you are a man who was raised by a single woman and you turned out great, kudos to her. If you are a single mother raising sons and you feel like you're doing a hell of a job, kudos to you. This isn't the discussion for you or to make you feel bad, but I do want you to listen, because perhaps you can take this information and help someone else, because it's a problem. When homicide is the #1 killer of Black men 18 to 35, it's a problem. It's a problem. They lack conflict resolution skills. We see homosexuality on the rise. Even just the so-called males that have the so-called sassy behavior. I see this so much online. And so many times we don't even understand why that so-called sassy behavior exists. Nobody who is, I think, most straight men aren't saying, they're not waking up and saying, how can I be sassy today? But one of the things from being raised by a mother only is the frequency of not having a male present can affect a young boy's social and emotional development, as well as their understanding of masculine behavior. So when they don't have a male to model themselves after, all they have is a woman around, typically they're going to pick up female patterns of behavior. I was talking to my daughter the other day, and I was saying how there are times when I'm just sitting and I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, and Mom, I love you, but there are many times that my mother has what we call a resting bitch face. And there are times that I'm sitting and I have to say, Shamika, relax your face. Because I just feel like my mama when I'm sitting there. There are times when I say things and I sound just like my mama. There are times when I may move a certain way and I'm moving like my mother, because as I've patterned my behavior in many ways like her. Not consciously, but that was my first example of what a woman is. So a lot of things that I do, I learned from my mother. I learned from my grandmother, being in the household with them. There are even things that I learned from my uncles that are more masculine, things that I do that are more masculine that I shouldn't, because I had 3 uncles in the home. But you pattern your behavior around, by what you see. This is children. And so if a boy only has his mother around, or his mama and his grandma, he's going to pick up behaviors that we will call sassy or effeminate, and it's not something that he's doing consciously. He just hasn't had that male role model, so it is affecting his ability to understand masculine behavior. That's just what it is. We see that not only that in straight men, the sassy, and I'm only using this because I see it across social media so much. Oh, y'all are sassy. And this is typically to straight men. We see them arguing a lot. Typically, they lack conflict resolution skills, not just with women, not just in society, but a lot with each other, which is why you see the rise of thugs, the savages, who don't know how to deal with the emotions that come upon them in a masculine way. Because if you look around, there are tons of videos of women tearing up a McDonald's, tearing up a Bojangles. For the smallest things, they don't get their way, they start acting unseemly. If this is the behavior that young boys are seeing, how are they going to know what to do when they face any type of conflict? It's not going to be easy. So, because they know something has upset them, because they know somebody has disrespected them, all they think to do is, let me fight, let me pull out a weapon, and let me act like what I call untamed gorillas. And I say this to the people I love. So it's Shamika. That is Shamika. So please don't be, oh, you calling Black people gorillas? Yeah, I am. That's me. If you're here, you already know it. We see so many times men we're talking about the problems right now. We see so many times men have a lack of leadership, because it's going to be very hard for that woman to show you leadership that oftentimes she lacks. The ability to have good choices, make great decisions. Because if she's a single parent by choice, she already lacks good decision-making skills. So where is he going to get it from? Again, these young boys raised by women alone are at a greater risk for having academic achievement issues and behavior issues. They don't understand masculine behavior. So where are they going to get it from if they're only around their mothers? trying to have as much empathy and understanding for them as possible as I can. A lot of times they lack emotional control. They don't know what to do with these issues. Somebody is ringing my doorbell. Why? I do not know. I didn't put a sign on the door today. Hopefully, one of my daughters will come down and put them in their place. A lot of times they have substance abuse issues. I've seen so much, and we said we were even going to talk one day on the show that a lot of these young people coming up are just high for no reason at all, just high every day. The whole wake and bake mentality. They're waking up, they're getting high because they don't know how to deal with life. They don't have, not only do they not have conflict resolution skills, they don't have coping mechanism skills because life be lifing. It's not that you're dealing all the time with some type of traumatic issue. It's just that today is Friday and life be lifing. But many times they don't have coping mechanism skills. These are problems that we see. We see the boys that want to be girls because I know how to be a woman better than I know how to be a man because all I see are women. So I can put my makeup on or I can do my hair in that type of style because mama took me to the beauty shop every chance she got. She ain't have nobody at home with me. So I was in the salon and I was looking at the women getting their hair done. And I was listening to the gossip from the women. Or mother and her friends were hanging out, and that's all I was around. Aunt so-and-so, aunt this, aunt that, all these aunts around. I know very well how to be a girl, or I think I know how to be a girl much better than I know how to be a boy. Not only that, but when you are a single parent, a lot of times you don't have the time to watch who's fumbling and playing with your male child. So then there's a greater risk for being sexually abused. A lot of times, these young boys, they're not always having homosexual feelings, but sometimes someone has touched them, and once their bodies betray them, because a lot of times when you're young, whether it's a male or female touching on your penis, it's going to get hard. So once their bodies betray them, they don't know which way to go. Mama is working 10, 12 hours. When she come home, she's tired. This is one of the problems. One of my children is watching this broadcast. Turn your TV down because I can hear it in my ear. And I appreciate you watching. That's what I love about my kids. Look, they believe in their mama and they know, like, you see some children, they're like, no, my kids, what is mama saying? Because mama be on point. I appreciate y'all. Thank you for turning the TV down because I could hear it in my ear. But these are some of the problems that we see. The crime, the anger, the hostility, the lack of leadership, the homosexuality. These are all problems that we see. And it is my belief that it is due to us adopting and embracing the ideas of feminism. Because what would make a woman think she don't need a man? As we showed in the video that I started out with, she don't need a man. A man is only going to hold her down, hold her back. What would make her want to take on the greatest responsibility in the world by choice? Because look, if not only am I not talking to you if you lost your spouse, he was killed or something like that. We're not talking about those issues. In fact, children who end up in a single parent family due to death don't have the same poor outcomes as single parents from divorce or just out of wedlock. So we're talking about these that have adopted the ideas of feminism, as in saying, I don't need a man. And sometimes they aren't just simply young people making poor decisions. At this point, we have grown adult women saying, I don't need a man, going to the sperm bank and feeling like you can do it on your own. Why someone feels like they can take on the greatest job on the planet, raising another human being to be a productive human being, to me is like a really big deal. Why y'all feel like you can do it by yourself, different from the way it's supposed to be, and still do a fantastic job is beyond me. It's not an easy thing to do. And women, statistically, you are worse single parents than men. God, that's gonna make some of y'all mad. But somebody has to say, look at the effects of what feminism has also done to men. And women, because you are the ones in the household, you stanking up the joint. You are not doing that great of a job. Okay? These are the problems that we see. And why are we having these problems? It's because of the single moms in the house. So men, stop sowing your seeds in gardens that you are not going to be around to water, nurture, and watch grow. Because statistically, women are not capable of raising young men. We're talking about statistics. Again, if you're just joining, I'm not talking about the exceptions. I'm talking about what happens when a woman tries to take on the job of raising a little boy. They are at greater risk of parental abuse and neglect. Boy or male children are at greater risk of parental abuse and neglect. Women are 56% more, they're greater than men in the perpetrators of all forms of child maltreatment. We're talking about why feminism and this whole idea, go back to last week, we went through the waves of feminism and exactly what the focus was each wave. And the whole coming against gender roles, coming against traditional families. Go back to last week if you need that. So when we have adopted these ideas from feminism, We have a lot more women feeling like they can go at it alone. A lot more men not understanding, yeah, you may pick up little Tommy every Saturday for basketball practice, but if you are not there Sunday through Friday, your child is still at a greater risk for having parental abuse and neglect. And let me say this, it is not because women who are single are inferior parents. Typically, it is because when you are a single parent, you are more likely to be stressed and have greater demands on you. Studies show that single mothers are more likely to experience episodic and chronic depression, anxiety, substance abuse, stressful life events, low self-esteem, social isolation, and a lack of emotional support. Studies show that mothers that are highly involved, typically you're more highly involved when there's a man around doing his job in the home so that you can do yours. But mothers that are highly involved display love more appropriately and often. We're talking about how we got to the soft, the sassy, the savages, the men that lack leadership. We're talking about how they got here. We know the problem. We see the problem every day. We see the problem all across America. When you look at what's happening in DC and the reason why Trump has had to intervene, because there's a problem. We see the problem. Now we're talking about why. Mothers who are less involved are overcritical, communicate ineffectively and infrequently. They show little compassion and they offer minimal emotional support. Maternal rejection is significantly associated with psychological issues. Single mothers are more likely to engage in psychologically controlling behavior, which creates heightened anxiety, depression, and substance abuse issues in male children. So when we wonder why we are seeing what we're seeing from these sassy thugs, sassy straight men, soft men, we got to go back to the root. The root is being raised with a single mama who has adopted the ideas of feminism, that there's no big deal with traditional values and gender roles and traditional family roles. Feminism is the culprit. These young boys who are raised by women are more likely to become teen parents. So then it's just repeating the behavior. Because typically, if he's a teen parent, he's not going to be in the household with his child. And God forbid he has a son who is now being raised in a household with a single mom. This is why I said last week, count back. When the marriage rate started to decline around the 1960s, We are at least 3 generations in of bastards raising bastards. This is why we are here. Males being raised by single mothers alone are less likely to graduate high school or college. We're talking about the absence of a male role model. How studies show it can affect their social and emotional development, as well as their understanding of masculine behavior. And so we talked last week about how women will look down their nose at men, but nobody wants to say, how did they get here? Why are they acting like this? Could it be because we've adopted across the board the ideas of feminism? We've said, I don't need a man. I can do this alone. We're talking about the ones that consciously make the decision to have children out of wedlock. It has a negative effect on male children. Going back to me saying there's so many things I pattern after my mom. When it comes to physical things like having a resting bitch face or I'm a girl. I was a girl. So having patterns after my mom, certain things were not frowned upon because I'm a girl. Wanting to put on lip gloss or arch my eyebrows because I saw my mother getting her eyebrows done, it was fine because I'm a girl. When it was time for me to have my menstrual cycle, my mother was right there to show me what to do. There are little boys who don't know they're supposed to stand and pee because they watch mama sit down and pee every day, all day. Who is showing them? She can try, but if we mimic our parents and those we are around, are we surprised when we see behavior showing up in men that mimic female behavior? We can't be shocked. And I can be very ruthless because I have studied psychology. I can be very ruthless when it comes to how I deal with men sometimes, especially online. Like, yeah, you get it from your mama. Just by the way they talk. I just told y'all women are more likely than men to be abusive. Men statistically are better single parents. They can handle the stress better by themselves than a woman can. We aren't built to handle that stress. Working 8 to 12 hours a day, coming home, having to deal. How do you teach this little boy? I know all this testosterone running through you feels like this, that, or the other when you don't know. You don't know. So you're working 8 to 12 hours a day and you do not know what to do with that little boy when you come home because you're not a man. I don't care how much Hallmark tells you you are the mother and the father. It's not possible. And they can have greeting cards that represent every type of woman there is on Father's Day. Fat, skinny, short, tall, dark, light. I don't care. It's not possible. And y'all embracing the idea that it is possible is crazy. So not only are you embracing a sort of mental illness, but you're putting that on your children. I just told you it causes mental illness in kids, depression, anxiety, substance abuse. Yet we continue to have women laying down or young girls laying down with boys thinking, okay, it's fine if a child comes from this. Even grown adults are not even pushing marriage. I had someone just yesterday ask me how old my daughters were. And when I gave their ages, they said, oh my God, don't you want grandchildren? I said, yes, eventually. But I want to be the mother of the bride first. That's my thing. I want to be a grandma one day, but I want to be a mother of the bride first. We have adopted the ideas of feminism so much, we don't even in general conversation understand the importance of men and women raising the children. You just look at somebody's age as a woman and think, well, where's the baby? You 21, 25, 29, where's the baby? You don't got no baby? We don't even think to say, oh, when are you getting married? It's not even a thought. Where's the baby? Or where's your master's? Or where's your doctorate? There's no thought of doing things, as we would say, decent and in order. You see somebody, a woman, 26, 27 years old with no children, people act like they're a unicorn. They're shocked. And the first question is, where's the baby? When you gonna have a baby? So she can be alone and just keep creating more men being damaged by the ideas of feminism. And if you were not here last week, we already talked about how it hurts women. Today we're talking about how it hurts men. And we are seeing these men out here struggling, and there's typically no real understanding nor compassion for them. As I said, looking down your nose like, why you don't know this? Why you don't know that? I don't want to build a man. I don't want to have to do this or do that. And I'm not saying you have to. I'm not saying that you have to, as women, accept that at all. I'm just saying, understand how feminism has wrecked us, has caused so much havoc in the so-called Black community. That's all I'm saying. Understand that it has been an issue. So we know the problems. We know why the problem exists. So what's the solution? The solution is getting back to basics. We talked about this last week. Getting back to traditional values. I don't care that we are 3 generations in to bastards raising bastards. Try to raise a bastard that don't have the mentality that it's okay to have another bastard. You raised your child on your own and they came out okay. Whew, thank goodness. Because statistics not on your side. But if you did it, thank goodness. But you don't then say, I did it. You can do it. You'll be fine. Try to instill a better way of thinking in that child. So yeah, you know, my mom raised me. It was just my mom, but that's not what I want to do. Because what we have now, and we see it so often, mama's on food stamps or grandma's on food stamps. So then mama's on food stamps. Child feel like, oh, well, I just grew up and had me a baby and then I'm on food stamps. Because we're teaching them certain ways of life. I said children typically pattern their behavior after the parent that they see most of the time. So if you're not constantly trying to instill a different train of thought in them, you are only exacerbating the problem. So the solution is to get back to basics. Get back to accepting traditional values. Because some of what you see, the rampant homosexuality or the men who just don't want to be men, is because we have lost those traditional families. The thugs out here. Can you imagine growing up with a woman who is hostile? Wouldn't that make you angry? Wouldn't that make you upset? Studies show that a mother who is more psychologically controlling restricts her child's ability to develop a healthy sense of autonomy by expressing disappointment frequently, utilizing guilt and coercion to influence child behaviors, and employing excessively harsh discipline for mistakes. And we wonder why a lot of these men or young males are so angry. Imagine being raised with a woman who, a lot of times, as I said, is not because she's inferior as a woman. Typically, it's because when you are a single parent, you have more demands and stress on you. So you think you're doing a good job by being excessively harsh when it comes to discipline. You're not. You're creating psychological issues in that young male. And if women are more responsible than men when it comes to the maltreatment of children, they're more abusive than men. What are we doing? We wonder why there's so much anger. Get back to basics. And men, let me tell you, it is okay to get therapy. We see a rise of women saying, I'm going to go get some help. I'm going to talk to somebody. Men, it's okay for you to get therapy. And for men who did not have to be raised in these situations, we need you to be a little bit more aggressive in helping us eradicate these problems and usher in some healing. Push your brother to get some healing so that he won't have a child and put that child in the position to have the same thing happen. I know I got some people mad at me today, but I don't care because it's the weekend, baby. I'm going to read some comments now and get on up out of here. This is what I like about the show because I get to talk to y'all. Hey, Katie. Hola, Miguel. Hi, Asinos. You said I'm every woman. Yeah, that's a lot of women. And that's one of my favorite songs. A lot of women feel like they are. Yoni says it's a triggering topic. It is. We know. Some of my regulars, I know y'all are okay. Let me get the Pope be Frank. Thank you for being here. He's telling y'all to hit the like button. Make sure you do. Hopefully you shared it. Alicia says, I am a widow. Thank God for the time that my children had with their father. Thank God. And kudos to the women who know how important men are in children's lives. Because there are so many women, as we saw in the video that we started out with, who have been conditioned to think that children don't need a man. Yes. I'm glad that you mentioned to men to stop leaving their seed in women they do not want to marry. Yes, men do have a say in reducing the numbers of neglected children. Absolutely. Stop doing it, men. If you know you're not going to be there, stop doing it. All my hoes demonetized. I'm cooking today. I appreciate that. Love the comfortable look while you speaking that truth. It's a bunch of spineless back men out here right now with no standards. Absolutely. Thank you, Thomas. I guess you're gone though now. You said you had to run. Wow. Earl Grey the Bay says, my mother didn't even come to my high school graduation. Whew. That makes me so sad when I hear so many stories. It just makes me sad because one of the things that I pride myself on is really trying to be a good mom, a good involved mother. Albert C., nurses look at me weird when I was in the room with my pregnant wife. Yeah, they act like you're not supposed to be there. Like, okay, I am the father. You are the father, and you are important. But nowadays, people don't even see it. Asino the Wise says, we have to completely let go of degenerates. I mean, we completely ignore them, if you will. You got to, because they'll give you a headache. Earl Grey Bay says, oh my God, the yelling every morning before school was torture. Can you imagine? That was one of the things, like, of course, you're trying to get children ready for school. You can get a little frustrated. I had to really try to make a conscious effort to not get on my children in the morning, because then they got to go to school and you want them to go to school and perform their best and be excellent. But you done had a whole meltdown and took it out on them before they get there. How do you expect that child to be great and excel? They're fighting through a lot. And some fight through it, but you're making them fight through a lot when you don't have to. You don't have to. So hopefully you all enjoyed this. episode of seeing what feminist, I know we're going to revisit it because it's a lot. But again, women, I'm not getting on you saying that you're inferior women. Or am I? I'm not saying that you're inferior parents just because. I'm saying it's usually because you have greater demands and greater stressors, and you're more likely to experience depression, anxiety, and life events. And you typically take that out on your children, and you make them fight through foolishness that they otherwise wouldn't have to fight through. And we're confusing them. When we aren't giving them the role models every day. Because, yeah, you can pick up little Tommy on Saturday, but it's difficult when you are still with that mother the rest of the week. I hope I came across as if somebody that just see the issues, not somebody that think that I can raise a man. I cannot. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Let's see what you said. Am I? How many comments did I? King Picks. Am I married? I was legally married at one point. I am not legally married right now. Somebody's watching you. A good Rufus song. I don't know that song, Miguel. Maurice, is this the effects of the crack era? That did have a great deal to do with it. When you go back to the 80s and 90s, that crack era tore families to pieces. It tore families to pieces. But King Pitts, I don't know if you asking because you just because, or if you wonder if I'm available. I'm not available. No, I'm kind of cute. I was an ass in the morning to my kids. Terrible. That's awful. You know what I would hate that my mother would do before I went to school? Let's just say I didn't wash my face appropriately, and she would lick her finger and then get something off my face. I hated that because then I went around the rest of the morning just smelling like breath. I couldn't stand it. That made me so upset. Ugh. Don't do that to your kids. Along with everything else I've talked about, don't do that to your children. Make them lick their own finger so that the breath they smelling, make them lick your finger or their own finger and get it whatever off so that the breath they're smelling is theirs, not yours. I didn't want to smell my mama's breath all morning. So if I ever didn't do what I supposed to do in school, Mom, it was because I was distracted by the smell of your breath. And I couldn't focus and I couldn't function. I hope my mama don't see this show. She gonna be like, oh, my breath. Oh, my resting bitch face. Hey, it made me, Mom, shake my head. And so until next time, when there's something else that makes me shake my head, I'm going to get on out of here. And I will see y'all on Monday. I love y'all. Katie said just use the washcloth. Exactly. But sometimes when you are already riding to school, about to walk in the building, the washcloth wasn't available. Just don't do it to your kids. Don't do it. Good week of content. Thank you so much. Y'all have a great weekend. It is 3:00 and I am out of here. Love y'all. Peace.